For millions of years, species have evolved, inhabiting the lands, the waters, and the airways. The variety of all these living things, their genetic composition, the ecosystems in which they live and their interactions, is known as biological diversity, or biodiversity. Biodiversity is fundamental to human life and intricately linked. It is a web of life, where change at one level can impact other levels, a self-sustaining dynamic, but it is one which is also being altered faster than ever before by the most dominant species, humans. Throughout man's existence on Earth, natural landscapes have been modified to suit cultural and economic needs, sometimes resulting in the loss of natural areas and the disappearance of species, both flora and fauna. These signs of change and species loss have been detected for a long time by the scientific community. Now, the general public and policymakers are acknowledging the issue, recognizing the importance of conserving life as we know it. Fortunately, many steps are being taken to address the concerns of conserving biodiversity. The Monitoring and Assessment of Biodiversity program at the Smithsonian Institution Conservation and Research Center was established to promote the conservation of biological diversity.
Managing wildlife ultimately comes down to managing people.
The MAB program promotes biodiversity conservation through education, research, and adaptive management.
We're basically concerned about status and trends of the health of whole systems. We need to understand something about normal limits of variation. We understand that these systems are dynamic, that they change. So what's normal and what's not? How do we figure that out? Well, one of the ways is you start measuring it. And you can just begin to define normal in a statistical sense about what is the regular variation that we see in this system over varying scopes of time. So basically the business we're in is healthcare for the environment.
Since 1986, the MAB program has developed a first-class education curriculum designed for resource managers, environmental leaders, researchers, and policymakers.
The idea was to design a course, to design a program that would be able to address theoretical information, background information, field work where they're actually going out and doing the stuff that they're learning so they have a really good understanding of that, and then working up that information. So they understand what to do with that data, how to turn it out, and how to disseminate the information to others afterward.
For the last 15 years, we have trained well over 1,000 people in this process of doing biodiversity monitoring and assessment for conservation. We have also linked this information to decision makers through a professional training program on communication and leadership.
Participants come from all over the world to take part in the course at CRC. Instructed by well-known environmental leaders and renowned scientists.
Concern about natural resources and their conservation is not new at all. What is new is the scale of the problem and the scale of the concern and the scale of what needs to be done.
Adaptive management is a combination of the scientific method with also an experiential approach. So we learn from what we do and perhaps learn from our mistakes in some cases and hopefully make better decisions in the future.
Participants also bring their wealth of knowledge and concern to the course, adding to the rich learning exchange.
My name is Joana Delgado Acevedo from Puerto Rico. I think that it's going to impact my work in a way that I have to open my mind for other techniques, for example, other protocols that the other people use.
I would suggest that we put all the list. My name is Suher Suryadi and I'm from Indonesia. We cannot just tell government about the biological information because those government cannot understand the biodiversity language. Somehow we have to translate the biodiversity language into economic language, then they can understand.
My name is Tsawang Wangchuk. I'm from Bhutan. In Bhutan, being close to nature, protecting it, conservation, dealing with nature is part of everyday life. Why do we conserve biodiversity in the first place? Is that an end in itself, or is that a means to an end?
The fact that you said, okay, you have a boundary here.
My name is Keith David. I'm from Guyana. I have a sense of belonging there because the Amerindians there see themselves as being part of the environment. So when you change the environment, you change the people. You change their beliefs, you change their practices, you affect their strength.
This course is very unique. We have international experts providing a series of lectures. Then we have field work, a lot of field work related to different components of biodiversity. And from integration of this work in a small group by the participants, interpreting and presenting the results to the whole group for evaluation and discussion.
What are statistics and why do we need it?
Statistical tools are needed for sampling design and analyzing data gathered in the field.
Statistics provide reliable information. They don't make decisions. They'll never replace the decision making that you have to make. They simply make it easier.
Data managers and geographic information system specialists compile information and offer basic tools such as GIS and GPS for locating geographic points from which computer-generated maps of ecosystems and their data are created.
What you do, layout, property.
Ecologists frequently focus on vegetation for monitoring and assessment because vegetation is the structure of the terrestrial ecosystem that house all other organisms, and the source on which we as humans and animals live and feed.
So why is it important that we should sample plants? A lot of classification systems, habitats, ecosystems, a lot of them are dependent on plants.
Okay, so we're going to make this plot. You should always try and stay on the outside of your perimeter because these little A plots are the ones where we look at the herbaceous material.
Go to the left.
Head towards that little orange flag.
My name is Narciso Guerrero. I am from Michoacán, Mexico. Our people rely very much on the natural resources, especially in forestry. They really have to learn how to manage the resources.
What is that? Carpinus.
Mammals, both wild and domestic, are important components of the food chain and serve as indices for environmental health. They are the prey and the predators, symbols of our cultural heritage, oftentimes sources of inspiration and attraction.
You had to make serious decisions about what to preserve and what not to, that you would want to preserve at least a representative of each order if what you're interested in is preserving the maximum amount of diversity.
My name is Marcelo Becasesi. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina. As a wildlife veterinarian, I've been working with investigations carried out by my government. I feel that I can actually help them a lot, especially after doing this course.
What we're going to expect the bat to do is kind of fly down this way.
Bats play a critical role in shaping both pattern and process of ecosystem diversity. In rainforests, bats pollinate and disperse seeds of many of the plants.
Oh, it's a tiny little myotis. This is the eastern version of one of the most common bats I found. And this guy will probably just fly right off.
Alongside the terrestrial environments flow the aquatic systems. Estuaries and rivers, wetlands and lakes purify our waters and house an important food source: fish.
Fish around the world are in bad shape at this point, exploited perhaps at their carrying capacity.
This is a rock bass. But we hope that we're helping people make a little bit of a difference, that they do know that their aquatic systems they have in their country or in their area are important. They could be very diverse, even though they're underwater. You can't see a lot of things that are in there.
It's a conceptual course. So we're using electrofishing out here primarily so we can get data, so that they can assess the biotic integrity of the sites. But we also show them how to take a seine, which is very inexpensive, and sample these same kind of habitats with pod traps, with other types of nets.
It's a hook for the fishermen.
Amphibians and reptiles are unique in that they occur in both terrestrial and aquatic environments. Studying their populations can tell much about the global environment. The permeability of their skin makes them useful indicators of environmental stresses because they are more sensitive to changes than other vertebrates.
I think it's important to study and monitor amphibians because they're an important part of the ecosystem. They can be a large part of the biomass. One of the challenges is that amphibians tend to have erratic population cycles naturally. So the problem is going to be how to sort out anthropogenic causes of declines from natural causes of declines.
Yeah, about 41 millimeters.
My name is David Laurencio. I am from Costa Rica.
I got it.
We've been working in Costa Rica a lot with baseline inventories of mainly herpetofauna. So this course has given me an opportunity to basically expand my abilities to do work.
In terms of biodiversity, abundance, and biomass, arthropods are over 1 million described species.
Good.
And they're also very, very important ecologically. You know, if you didn't have arthropods out there, basically the forest or whatever ecosystem wouldn't function, because they're decomposers, they're pollinators, they're predators, they're food for a lot of organisms, they aerate the soil. All the techniques that are taught in this course are ones that usually can be applied anywhere.
That branch over there.
We try to teach some real standardized quantitative techniques that anybody can do. A lot of these traps that we do for arthropods, you just have to set them out in the field and leave them for a couple days and collect them to sort the samples and identify them.
Birds are important because they're everywhere. They exist in every ecosystem on Earth, from the largest cities to the most pristine habitats, forest, grasslands, desert. And they're very important in every ecosystem that they exist. The birds actually kind of create conditions for other species to live. And it's just, you know, they're very, very powerful determinant of the ecosystem function by their activities.
Let's see if we can see that. It's a beautiful bird.
The techniques are very straightforward.
I believe that's got to be a red-bellied.
Presence or absence of a species, how many, where do they nest, where do they feed. You can go to any country in the world and work within the confines and constraints of the country and just train local people. That tail.
Oh, yeah.
Can you see them, the subtle barring that you see? All bird species have that.
May I see that again?
Each one of the building blocks of the course will come out towards the end and integrate whole plan into professional biodiversity monitoring and assessment plan for conservation.
This program allows you to design your program so that you can, throughout your ongoing monitoring program, detect those changes if they are indeed happening, and then how to adapt your management plan accordingly.
They could take this assessment and monitoring, look at that information and find out, well, heck, you know, they're really doing something that could potentially be harmful to the environment. And we can fix that because there's an alternative way. So they'll provide that information based on the information that they found from looking at what's out there and then monitoring that over time.
You know, that's something that this course really brings to it. Having people from so many parts of the globe coming with their different cultural values, beliefs about the land and land use, that makes the dialogue rich.
I am working in the field of conservation and with the IUCN, and this is the first opportunity I got to know about conservation.
Who knows, someday we can all act as a forum and, you know, we can discuss problems across the net, and it's great.
Everyone is trying to achieve awareness to their people. The buzzword has been education, children, training, exposure, awareness.
We're going to see the progress in biodiversity through a much greater sharing of information and what one country is doing compared to another. That's why the Smithsonian course has been so valuable.
We feel very proud that the Smithsonian Institution is taking the leadership role in training thousands of people from all over the world in biodiversity monitoring and assessment for conservation.
Together, we are taking steps to protect our environment and ensure the preservation of biodiversity. MAB is helping in this process, and through the continuation of its efforts, global understanding and adaptive management will grow